Hi, Kate and Nesta. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Will.
Thanks for joining me. Congrats on Dope Thief. I
Thank
loved your
you. Thank
performances.
you, love.
I was curious, did either of you, we could start with Kate. Did you read the 2009 novel Dope Thief at any point, or did the creator, Peter, maybe advise you guys just to shy away from it and just stick with the scripts instead?
Right. Well, the answer to the first part of that question is no. I was not
Yeah.
aware of it on the market in 2009, although I understand it got very good reviews, and I think he's quite a good writer. But secondly, and it wasn't so much Peter's decision as it was my own when I learned that we were going to go a sort of, in different ways that weren't, what's the word I'm talking about? Not honorable, but not exactly what the book was. I thought, I'm just going to step away from the book and give myself the freedom to create her out of my own imagination and the imagination of the showrunner, playwright, Peter Craig, who, in my opinion, has done a stupendous job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Nesta? Is that sort of a similar for you behind the scenes?
I did read it,
Oh,
but Michelle is very, very different in the book. But yes, it is beautifully written. And one thing about Peter is that he would not tell any of us to do or don't do anything. He is very collaborative and very trusting with his cast, and so he left it up to us to decide. And yeah, that was my decision.
very cool. And both of you have some pretty pivotal scenes with the great Brian Tyree Henry. I'm a huge fan of his as well, playing Ray. I was curious, before Dope Thief, were you familiar with his work? Did any sort of knowledge of his work beforehand maybe have an impact on those pretty memorable scenes you have with him? We could start with you, Nesta, to talk about collaborating with him.
Yes, of course. I was such a huge fan of his. I had watched Causeway, and then, of course, obviously, I'd watched Atlanta. And I think what struck me about him that was, I guess, like the most surprising was he had played these characters that were just so hard, like had such a hard shell around them, and were very cool in like, I mean, Paperboy is not someone that seems very approachable, and Brian is just the opposite of that. He's the most welcoming teddy bear of a person. So that was probably the most surprising for me, and was just such a relief, and was so wonderful to work with him in that way. But of course, huge fan of everything he does.
I'd seen him in Causeway and, of course, recognized him as a very fine actor. But it isn't until you're in the room and in the scene and the pressure is on, because that's a very unusual and hard pressure. I'm just telling you, Will, right now on a soundstage with strangers, right? And yet you're supposed to dive in and do this very intense work. He did it with the grace and dexterity of some sort of mythic lizard. And I, as a result, felt absolutely free to follow him and to play with him. So this is the sign of a great actor. He is and was Ray, and so innately and inherently so that he allowed you to be inherently Teresa or Michelle.
Yeah, I mean, your scenes, Kate, with him, I mean, you guys really kind of verbally go at each other, but it felt so authentic, this, knowing you have this long history, your characters. So
Right.
I think it'll really resonate with people.
Yeah.
And Kate, I also wanted to ask, I'm a huge Trekkie, Star Trek fan. I was curious if you would welcome the opportunity to portray Admirable Janeway down the line in future projects.
Live action. It's been brought up many times now. And I don't think that there's ever a saturated market for Star Trek because of Roddenberry's vision, which was so profound and so far-reaching. So never say never and never say die. She's an admiral, and she's probably itching to go. What quadrants are left in space?
Well, great. And And in the meantime, I congratulate you both again on Dope Thief. It was wonderful. Can't wait for everyone else to see it. So thanks again for chatting
Thank you.
with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.